We heard Emma cry out in the middle of the night, and it was definitely that piercing, something's horribly wrong kind of scream. She was glassy-eyed.
Couldn't move and just screaming that her back hurts, and just was vomiting. She was in so much pain. And then finally, we were able to move her enough to get her in the car and take her to the doctor. And then the doctor, who was a relatively old man, came and looked at the x-rays and then took off running down the hall. And that's when we knew that something was wrong. And he came back after conferring with his colleagues, and he said, "I want to show you something." And it looked like all her vertebrae had been squished like marshmallows, just like you squeeze them between your fingers. And they were all shattered. And he said, "I'm sending you over to the ER, and a hematologist is going to meet you there." And he said, "Well, we think your daughter might have leukemia."
And Shayne immediately reacted, obviously emotionally and, upset. And I was in denial. I didn't want to believe it. Once we met the oncologist, I think it was starting to settle in with me.
And within 30 minutes, she was in surgery, getting bone marrow biopsies and things like that. And within probably 4 hours, she was admitted to the hospital, and they were starting her on chemotherapy.
Their goal was to wipe out the cancer in the first several days. I can't remember, it was crazy. They wiped her completely out.
They basically pump her full of poison. What we realize is that the trick to chemo is to kill the cancer without killing the patient. You have this little girl, and she's so tender-hearted. She's so gentle and compassionate. And all of a sudden, she's laying in a hospital bed full of tubes and whatnot, and you feel completely helpless. And I'm supposed to be her dad. Humanly speaking, I'm the one that's supposed to protect her and to give her strength, and I can't. It's probably 2 or 3 in the morning, and my wife is sleeping on the cot, and my daughter is sleeping in her bed, and I'm laying in a fold-out bed, and I can't sleep. And I remember just sobbing with my face in the pillow, saying, "God, where are you?" I felt very, very alone. And it's almost like he said, he kind of recalled to my mind the 60, 70, 80 people that had been through our hospital room that day. And he said, "Shayne, I'm still here. Just sometimes my face looks more like a mosaic of 70 faces, but I'm here with you. My presence is here. My presence is in my people, and I haven't left you or abandoned you."
All along the way, our doctor was great at just bolstering us and encouraging us, but obviously, the reality that she might not make it was with us every moment of every day.
We went on these cycles where her immune system was weak, and she would get very, very sick. And we would be in the hospital, and they're pumping her full of antibiotics to try to keep the infection from spreading. And it was that way for about 2 years. It made me realize that the sense of control that I had over my children and their well-being was an illusion. That you can't really protect your kids. You can't control what happens to them. And it drove me back to a real trust that, God is their father too. And he loves them as much or more than I do. And he's gonna have to protect them. God's in control when I'm not.
I definitely questioned why, but I felt he was with us in a way that I'd never felt before.
About the first month or so, her cancer levels were way, 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 way down. And then they keep bombarding her over 2 years just to make sure. And so after 5 years, they said she has no more chance of having cancer than anyone else at this point. And so right now, she's as healthy as any other normal 16-year-old teenager, if there is such thing as a normal 16-year-old teenager. One of the things we learned is there's no good way to go through this. God never intended for parents to endure their children having cancer. It's not the way the world's supposed to work. And I remember a very clear sense of God saying, this is why Jesus had to come. He came because the world is broken. Sin has ruined everything. He came because little girls are not supposed to get cancer. Jesus came to put the world to rights. This is what the life, death, and resurrection of Christ is about.